So welcome to the World Usability Initiative Speaker Series. And it is part of the overall World Usability Initiative, which for those of you who don't know is about basically making our world more usable. Starting with World Usability Day, which is we're about to, in 1 year from now, we will be celebrating our 20th anniversary of World Usability Day, which is the second Thursday in November. This year, World Usability Day theme is collaboration and cooperation. And we use the speaker series as a way to start a dialogue, let people who haven't always been able to be part of dialogues and have a space to talk about our work. And so we're going to also be partnering. We're talking about doing a partnership with SIGCHI for this speaker series. And I know Vishal is on. I don't know if you want to say hi from SIGCHI. I know I saw you a minute ago. So where did he go? There he is.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes. So coming to us from SIGCHI, go ahead. Give us a minute.
Hello, everyone. I am Vishal. I am a member of SIGCHI, which is an organization of ACM. And I am here to meet everybody and say hi. And I'm looking forward to the conversations that we are having today. And I guess if you have any questions related to SIGCHI, feel free to reach out to me. I'll also share my email and email of SIGCHI Sustainability Community with everybody.
Thank you. And yeah, also put on the link in the chat, just put in the link of the relevant work that SIGCHI is doing, because we're really looking forward to partnering and getting a broader range. SIGCHI is part of the Association of Computing Machinery, that's ACM, the largest computing association on the planet. Okay, so with that, I am going to introduce our speakers and get right into it. So I'm super excited. I feel like this is kicking off maybe the first of many conversations about the UX of climate change. So for those of you who didn't hear me before, if you haven't already put where you are from in the chat, I would really appreciate that. And secondly, curious to know what the air quality is like where you are. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our speakers. So first we have Suzanne Jewell, who has a long history of designing, managing, and delivering projects of such diverse types as academic research, product design, theatrical productions, and disaster preparedness and response. Her research publications are primarily in human cognition and software design and disaster management. And I think I've known you for more years than I can count, so nice having you on board.
Thank you, good to be here.
Yes, sorry, and I didn't mean to give you a minute and not just talk over you. So thanks. And our other speaker is actually coming to the speaker series for the second time. Some of you may remember Umar Sharez from our Deconstructing Copy Paste a while back. Umar is a social change researcher, cross-disciplinary collaborator, and foresight practitioner operating at the intersection of academic and commercial practice, involved in training, consultancy, and report writing roles with international and Pakistani universities and NGOs, think tanks, and other organizations. His emphasis has been on opening up the future space to explore alternative futures and strategies, and to get us to achieve a preferable future. So with that, without further ado, I am going to turn it over to, let's say, Umar's first. So take it away, Umar.
Hello, everybody. And thank you, Elizabeth, for creating this wonderful dialogue space. The good thing about this particular session is that I don't need to introduce the concept of climate change to our participants. Most of us now know what it is, and most of us are now bearing its impacts. Most of us are bearing its consequences now. And there is no country in the world where climate change has not made its effects being felt. So this is a good space now to start thinking about Now, the beauty of this particular group is that we come from different parts of the world, and each part of the world has its own particular challenges related to climate change. But a few things are mutual for all of us. I think the unifying thing for all of us is that we are the ancestors of tomorrow, and our kids will inherit the earth which we leave behind for them. So it's very important that we have a joint vision about the future. And what we visualize, we can then achieve. So we can start off as a moot point, we can start off as thinking about a common vision for planet Earth, because there is no planet B. So one of the activities I'm going to do today is take you on a time travel journey and try to visualize a common vision for all of us. What is the Earth that we want to actually see at the end of the day? And do we think we can influence that future? Okay, we're going to start off with a game called the Time Traveler game. And we're going to have a closed-eyed vision of the future. And I will request all of you to join me in this journey. Now, all of us has somebody who is small, who is an infant, a kid, a child, and whom we tremendously love. It could be a nephew, a grandchild, a kid of a neighbor's, maybe your aunt's child, somebody whom you really adore, somebody whom you really love. Now, we're going to imagine that person's future on planet Earth 30 years from now. So what I want all of you to do is that I want you to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and imagine that person whom you really, really love, that child whom you really, really love and adore. So let us all close our eyes, put ourselves in a comfortable position wherever we are seated, and let's take a deep breath and inhale, and then we'll exhale the air. Okay. So inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Our body is now relaxed. We are in a comfortable position, and the body is feeling loose. And we are now ready to go on to our time travel journey. Right in front of us, we can visualize a time travel machine. And we're now opening the door for the time travel machine, and we're going to sit inside it. In front of us, there is a dashboard and different buttons. One button says travel. I'm going to press that button, and we are going to proceed to our journey into the future 30 years from now. We are now on our journey, and voila, we have now reached our destination 30 years from now. You open up the door to the time travel machine, and you step outside into the world 30 years from now. Okay, so as you open the door, you feel the temperature and the type of weather at that point in time 30 years from now. You have a look around and you see the different structures, the landscape, and the type of buildings at that point in time. You soak up those scenes, and there in front of you is that child whom you adore, who is now 30 years older, now full and grown person now. You walk up to that person, you're embraced by that person, you exchange pleasantries, and you have a brief chat. That person now gives you a folded note. You have a look at that folded note, there is a message in it for you. You thank that person, and now it is time to go back to the present. You wave your goodbyes and walk back to your time machine. Now you're back in your time machine, and you press the button, and you are now back into the present. At the count of 3, we are going to open up our eyes, and we are going to be back in the present. So 1, 2, and 3. Please open your eyes. Okay, so would somebody like to share what they saw? Let's take one comment. Okay, let us try to build on our time travel experience. Okay, so would somebody like to share what they saw? Let's take one comment. Okay, let us try to build on our time travel experience. So, in the slide in front of you, we have 2 quadrants. One which says the future is bright, the other which says the future is bleak. So, according to your particular experience, or what do you think, what do you predict the future is going to be in terms of climate change? Is the future going to be bright, or is the future going to be bleak? So what I would like to do is to annotate on this particular slide where you, and try to locate yourself on this particular line where you are. Where do you think the future is going to be? Thank you very much for all those people who are participating in this. Now, the beauty of this particular group is that we come from different parts of the world, and each part of the world has its own particular challenges related to climate change. But a few things are mutual for all of us. I think the unifying thing for all of us is that we are the ancestors of tomorrow, and our kids will inherit the earth which we leave behind for them. So it's very important that we have a joint vision about the future. And what we visualize, we can then achieve. So we can start off as a moot point, we can start off as thinking about a common vision for planet Earth, because there is no planet B.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Over to you, and I'm right here. And if there are any questions, more than welcome.
Thank you, Umar. It's always great to have you here, and thanks for pushing through the sound issue. Okay, so we're going to turn it over to Suzanne, and then we'll sort of all come back together at the very end. So go ahead.
All right, before I start, thank you, Umar. It looked like, Lou, did you have a hand up? Did anyone have any questions for Umar or comments?
No, I meant to just put a reaction to clap, and say thanks.
All right, does anyone have any comments or questions for Umar before we trundle on here? All right, in that case, I will get my screen set up. No, this one, desktop. And see if I can, getting windows organized. Zoom always does the wonderful reorganizing my windows when I share, so I have to do a little bit of setup. Okay, share. There we go. And there you are. So, first off, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy lives to express your concern about climate change. And I hope we can give you something that you can take away and get ideas for some things you might be able to do to influence that future. My name is Suzanne Yule. I'm going to be talking for a couple of minutes about some ideas around UX and climate change. And then we're going to put you in breakout rooms for about 15 minutes, small groups, so you can do some ideas, bounce some ideas around and talk to each other. So I'm Suzanne Yule. I want to tell you a little bit about myself because I do have a varied background, and that influences what I do and how I approach climate change and other things. I started out, my first career was in theater. I was a lighting designer, professional lighting designer and stage manager. I did a complete jump out of that and went into computer science, was a software engineer, but very quickly moved from general programming into what at that time was called UI engineering. So this is before we even talked about usability or human-computer interaction, all those things. I became a UI engineer. Then I discovered there was this burgeoning field called human-computer interaction, and I got into what is now called user experience. So for many years, I have been a designer, I have done research, I have been a consultant, and for the last several years, I have been teaching UX design and research and design for career changers. So it is a practicum course I teach. After 9/11, I discovered that I have a passion for disaster management. And I have been out, responded to a number of disasters, both national and local. I was on Hurricane Katrina. I responded to wildfires in Hawaii, floods in California. I very quickly moved that into doing some research around disaster, and that has now moved me into starting a nonprofit, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. But the key here is that all of that experience, all that background, the theater, the computer science, and most importantly, the UX, I bring all that into what I'm doing now to influence disaster preparedness and social resilience. So whatever you do, it's worth it, and UX comes into everything. So we're going to talk about the UX of climate change. This is really about connecting individual action to global impact. We're trying to encourage people to do something that will have a global impact. So before I talk about my ideas, I would like you to stop for a minute and think about in what have you experienced personally that is a direct effect of climate change? So for instance, you're having what is it, 254 wildfires burning in Canada today, or generating smoke in many parts of the country and the continent. That's certainly a direct effect. Second question for you to think about is, and I'll take a look at get myself so I can see the chats. Yep. Hot summers, short spring and fall, wildfires. What have you done? Have you taken any actions in response to that, either to change it or to protect yourselves? Pollen levels, sea rises, ticks, food prices. Yep. A lot of effects. So what steps have you personally taken? What are you doing? Is there any action you're doing in response to those changes that you personally are doing on a regular basis or routinely, not just a one-off? Driving less. Yep, I see a lot of driving less. That's good. Trying to recycle more. Buying green. That's good, good. So then take that, what you're thinking about. Hannah, I love clearing data stored in my client account. Vegan diet, composting. Excellent. What, now think about what keeps you doing that? What keeps you driving less? What keeps you composting? What enables you to be able to do that on a regular basis? So a moral motivation of the future. Your son, is that because your son bugs you or nags you at it, or the vision of that, of your son in the future, son's future? Hannah, good. You're actually enjoying the lifestyle changes. So there are a lot of concerns. All right, great. So that's what we want to talk about, is how do we motivate people to keep doing those individual actions that have a global impact? And we have the first approach that several people are mentioning here, which is to create some association between that individual action and a greater good. That creates, so that is what you just did with the visualization exercise, was give you some big picture of, oh, in the future, this other person will have this benefit. That is a marketing approach. Whoops, what happened there? Marketing approach. Marketing is fundamentally, we want to try to convince people that they want to do what we want them to do. We appeal to altruism, we appeal to morality, and to set up that, feeling of, I should do this. One good approach, and it's very important to have that bigger picture motivation. Another approach is to set up a connection between that individual action and that personal good. So we're trying to motivate them to take that individual action that aligns with the global impacts we're looking for. That sets up a UX approach. That's a UX approach. UX is fundamentally about designing things that people want to do, where they actually do what you want them to do. So we're manipulating the design of the world and the universe, or their everyday experience, what they do, making it easier to recycle, for instance. That's a UX approach, and that's trying to get at, motivate people to take action, not because they're for altruistic purposes, but because we are addressing their everyday needs and wants. That's what UX is fundamentally about. The good thing about taking a UX approach is, while it is more work for us, it's self-reinforcing. It doesn't just set up, I should do this, is I want to do this. So I think Hannah said, I'm enjoying these lifestyle changes. So that is self-reinforcing. I enjoy doing this, so I'm going to keep doing it. So we're talking about changing behavior, and there are a couple of ways we do that. So first, to do the design, we manipulate the personal cost benefit balance. We want to reduce the cost, say, of recycling, composting, reduce the cost of doing that, making it very easy and inexpensive, whatever the personal cost for me of taking that action. And we want to increase the benefit, make a really good, nice, big benefit. Exactly. I'm gonna take a leap here. It's in Vinicius. Work with their motivations. Exactly, that's what we're talking about. To motivation and practical considerations, so that we make the cost smaller and increase the benefit. We do that. A lot of that work is about providing them immediate feedback when they take an action. And there are 4 kinds. We can do feedback in 4 different kinds of ways. We're all used to thinking about feedback as a reward. So I can give you something. That's called positive feedback. I can reward you by giving you something. You took your recycled that, you get an ice cream cone. I can also punish you by giving you something. I said, you didn't take your recycling out, so I'm going to give you a bomb that's about to explode. That is positive feedback. I am giving you something. In the reward, I'm giving you something you want. For punishment, I'm giving you something you don't want. I can also create rewards and punishment in a negative way by taking something away from you. So a negative reward, or sorry, a negative punishment is I'm going to take away your ice cream. If you don't take out your recycling, I'm going to take that ice cream away from you. You don't get ice cream. I'm taking something away. I can also reward you by taking something away that you don't want. So I don't want this bomb to go off. Okay, your negative reward is if you do this, I will take that bomb away from you. I will extinguish the bomb. So those are the things that we typically look at and manipulate. What do people need and want? What is the cost and benefit of the action? Can I align that what they need and want with the cost and benefit of taking an action? And how do I provide that feedback so that they will keep doing it? Encourage them to keep doing it. Oops, my apologies. I meant to make that look larger. You can see it for a second here, so you can read it better. So let's look at two little examples. Now let's make this one larger. So two examples of where these kinds of things might happen or are happening. We can work at the individual level. So if you know about the Starbucks personal cup system, so Starbucks is a national coffee chain. Some of us are devotees and get our coffee there pretty much every day and go work. It's my office. They have a personal cup program to encourage people to use less disposable cups, where if I bring in my own cup and get my coffee in my own cup, they will give me first a negative reward. They reduce the cost. I get a 10-cent discount. So it's negative because I don't want to pay money. So they're rewarding me by letting me not pay less money. They also give me stars. That's a positive reward. Those stars I can then redeem for coffee later. So that system both reduces the cost over time. I'm spending less on coffee, and I get a big benefit that I get more coffee. We can also work at the system level, and this is where things get interesting, and you can have a larger, that UX often works at the individual level. We can also work at the individual level. So imagine that we set the limit for drugs or alcohol for driving at 0.001, just enough that you cannot have a drink, you cannot have that beer after work. But it's low enough that, or it's high, there's a little bit of leeway so that if you take cough medicine, you're not going to get busted. That's introducing, and that's a negative punishment, right? I want to go out and have beer with my friends after work, and I can't do that because then I can't drive home. So I have to choose. So I'm increasing the cost of the behavior we don't want. I think if we did that, there's a good chance that we get a lot of political pressure from the public to improve our public transportation and our mass transit, and we get those people out of their cars. We get much better public transit. So that's a way of thinking at a system level. How can I influence that individual behavior to get a system level by manipulating the system level so I can get a system level outcome? Not just the coffee is I get an outcome at the individual level that translate into a larger level. So that's the big picture. We're trying to get, if we take a UX approach to connect individual action to global impact, first, of course, we want to get people motivated and create an association. So they want to take out the action that we're trying to get them to take. However, we want to work to connect something to their personal good by enabling the action we want them to take, reducing cost, increasing benefit, giving them feedback so that they're encouraged to do it. Before we go into breakout rooms and give you a little exercise where you can generate some ideas, any thoughts or questions? And you can go ahead and unmute.
No, no questions?
All right.
Go ahead.
In that case, I hope you've used Miro. So this is so what we're going to do, we're going to put you in breakout rooms for about 15 minutes. You'll be in groups of 4 to 5. And we're going to use Miro, which is a shared whiteboard. There will be a frame. You'll see a frame. Actually, let me show here for each room. So your breakout room will have a number. And here's what the board looks like. If you haven't used Miro, it's reasonably straightforward. Ask us if you need help. If you're in room 1, then you guys will be, that group will be working on this board here for room 1. So in your, when you get in there, you're going to introduce yourselves, obviously, give us your name, where you are right now, and come up with one word that captures your time traveler experience. What you just did with Umar. Then you're going to pick one of these three ways to reduce fuel consumption as a team to focus on. Either eat less meat. We had someone earlier who said a vegan lifestyle was one they were already doing. Waste less food or reduce solo driving. And then as a team, develop one idea. How can you change UX either at the individual level or the system level to get people to expect that change? And then there are some questions you might think about or discuss, and you can put in post-its however your group wants to work. And I see a bunch of people already in there. If anyone has trouble getting to the links, any questions before we send you off?
I just made the rooms, but I'll set, the rooms are waiting to go as soon as we say go. But anyway,
Yeah.
Now's the time to ask questions, whatever. I know
And
Suzanne.
we will drop in to make sure that you've got everything.
Yep.
So if there are no questions, all right.
Okay, wait a minute. I see.
And we'll do some report back when we come back.
Okay. Up some people. Okay, go. Well, we'll see how this goes. Few people have dropped off, so if the rooms are too small, I'm gonna adjust them, but they look. Well, actually, Suzanne and Umar, you should be able to see the breakout rooms, right? For the recording. Recording kept going off and on. Honestly, this is a challenging technology day. You spend so much time getting everything ready, and then suddenly it's like, why is this happening? Anyway, I'm just gonna, since this is recording, I'm gonna go ahead and share the screen just to share this. Just so that it's part of the recording, because I would like to have I'm just doing this so that it's recording while people are, because I want to show what we've been doing here in this room. I mean, it's just really amazing to see the groups moving, working. All right. I'm just for the recording, gonna go ahead and show what's going on here. So we've got a few different rooms, and they are working on different.
Yeah. How much more time do we have?
I think 5 minutes. That's a good question. That's even a better. I'm going to make a note. Yeah, I'm gonna reach out to Susan. I think it's 5 minutes, but
Okay. Is there any echo in my sound?
is there what?
Is there any echo in my sound?
Not so bad. Not nearly as bad as it was before. This is great. It's a lot better. A lot better, yeah. All right, so we have, this group is working on wasting less. They have some very interesting concepts about how to do that. And then We can see this group also. Reducing driving. Reducing solo driving, that's a good idea. So that's what they're working on. And this other group is working on wasting food less. Let's see what else we have.
So it looks like they're working well. We can give them another 10 minutes.
If you want to, yeah, I was just recording.
Okay.
Yeah, we have, well, the whole thing ends in 27 minutes. So,
We give them, you want to give them 5 or 10 minutes?
I mean, I feel like honestly, we should give them more if they're interacting. Wait, I'm gonna turn the record. Because the recording back. So the first part of the chat disappeared, but it's gonna come when I save it all, or is it? Let's see. What happened to the rest of the chat?
And they come everyone comes bouncing back. It's one of the things I love about Zoom. You don't have to wait for stragglers to come back from the bathroom and they haven't gotten their coffee yet. Boom, everyone's here.
Right, we just go, okay.
All right, welcome back, everyone. How was that?
That's great.
It's challenging, but really good.
Good. Well, climate change is challenging. And UX is challenging. People think it's trivial, but you know, that's for those of you who've been in the field for a while, I'm sure you've had this experience too, that years ago it was a specialized thing and UX and oh, we have to get a real designer and you have to understand psychology and cognition. Now it's like, oh, well, that's easy enough. Everyone can design something. A lot of people don't get no, it's like my saxophone teacher used to say, it's very easy to do. It's very difficult to do well.
Right.
So let's hear from some of the rooms. Who would like to share what they're.
Someone said it was challenging. I was curious to hear what was challenging about it.
Well, we wanted to affect the system, you know, and policymakers. And so it was very not easy, but it was somewhat more of a natural inclination to think about what individuals, you know, how to influence individuals, not at the policymaker level or not at the business level. More difficult to sit in their shoes and think about what might motivate them, and come up with, in my mind, what might be real motivators at the policymaker level.
You were in room 3. Would you like to talk a little bit about what you came up with?
Yeah. I don't know if I want to be the person, but
Well, some other people can jump in. I'm going to share the screen so we can look at your board.
oh, good. All right.
So you have it. So there it is.
All right.
And everyone, this is room 3.
Room 3. Okay, so we picked reduce solo driving, and we wanted to change behavior at the policymaker level, which also, in our mind, included sort of a relationship with business organizations. So then from there, I kind of want to pass it off to others as we go, have me introduce it and then put the pressure on everyone else. But we wanted to increase investment in public transportation as being one of the changes, and have, I believe it was Dan who came up with this idea of investing in having more high density or having the public transportation service more high density places within cities. Is that what that was?
Yeah, more public transit infrastructure, and you have to have more people living in more densely populated places that can be served by public transit. as opposed to places where the only where public transit isn't feasible because it's not dense enough.
Yeah, and I'll chime in again. We thought of some more positive ways of like increasing education, being aware of the benefits of the public transportation, but then also like doing a protest or, you know, helping create, you know, a PR disaster changes behavior, right? It's like a PR disaster for your city or something like that. And then in the, you know, kind of, you know, like what are the incentives for a business leader in order to do things like reward employees for taking public transportation to work instead of driving to work, right? So, you know, could a business get a tax benefit if they did that? So thinking of those things that where it makes it economically better, right? It's less money to take public transportation to work, and it's perhaps even more convenient. Again, if you have good infrastructure. If you don't, then you know getting in your car is always easier. So it takes some of that. And then, you know, we went farther off of like, well, what if a government person's salary was tied to ridership and public transportation, right? Then there's, you know, then they can feel it in their pocketbook, right? So again, some of those more sort of far out ideas, but trying to hit it from the positive reinforcement and the negative. And of course, one answer to everything is you make gas more expensive. So that covers sort of what we talked about. But again, our first decision was not focusing on individual drivers, for example, but focusing on the policymakers and the business leaders in order to create those incentives rather than just saying, you know, you don't drive to work, right? So.
Yeah, I really like that you picked that sort of a system level and that you have a leverage point at the policymakers and the business organizations, but how do we change the behavior of those individuals?
Right.
Because they're still individuals.
Yep.
And we have to get them to take individual action to get this larger change. And I love that because, you know, so often if people think about these kinds of individual action, it's changing the end user, as it were, that driver, that shopper, not upstream of them. How do we get the people upstream who control the system? So that's great. Is there another group that wants to share something?
Looks like people are still working on room two anyway, looks very busy still. And also room one, which is great.
Does anyone from room 2 want to catch us up a little bit on what you came up with? They're looking at food waste.
Right.
Hello. So we picked up wasteless food, and we spoke about some ideas and maybe mandate the smaller portions, use food wastes, composting, maybe providing the proper training and packaging to make good compost in your houses. And maybe for farmers and agri-supply chain, called storage for longer shelf life of fresh ingredients. Maybe I don't know if we got it right the next question, but maybe you can reuse or sell at a lower price is some deformed vegetables or grocery stores donating or putting large discounts. In my personal opinion, I don't like punishments. I'm a father, and I don't like to educate with punishments, but of course, I like to reward. So maybe you can reward with his taxes to home composting, monitor household waste to reward if lower by deadline, or discounts for smaller grocery purchases. Maybe someone of my group, he like to speak. I guess not.
Don't all shout at once. That's good. I love your, it's a good choice. And I love you link the buying smaller amounts of food to the fact that packaging is definitely in the way of doing that. And also I like this, the savings if you buy less, because of course at least in the US, businesses encourage you to buy larger packages. You get a discount if you go more. You know, I've for years had this idea of a single serving supermarket where you deliberately address the market that people who live alone, and you can buy small servings. Personally, I'd be willing to pay more per unit because because the ultimate cost, the total cost would be less if I don't have to throw stuff away because I buy a large package that I can't use. So that's good ideas there. I love that. All right. Thank you all very much. I hope that was helpful and gives you something to think about going forward. Let's go back here. So again, my name is Suzanne Ewell. As I mentioned, I am starting a nonprofit. Our goal is to spread social resilience and disaster preparedness, and we use games and experiential learning. So looking at all that experience, not trying to tell people that they should be getting prepared for disaster and they should learn to talk to their neighbors and do that, but making it fun and attractive and going out to them. All that UX experience is coming into play. Because we know that communities who are ready to act, improvise, and overcome together recover and better and faster from disaster. So people who work together and are afraid, don't just sit around and say someone should do something. It's like, I don't know what to do. Do you know what we should do? Groups come up with ideas, and to get them prepared, there's a huge obstacle to getting people to disaster preparedness. And the traditional model is to use fear. You should prepare because a wildfire could happen. Like, well, let's have fun with it. So we do games and live action role plays, live workshops. People have a great time. If you're interested, we are creativecrisisleadership.org. You can see more information there. Did you have a question, Umar, or a comment?
Yeah, I just had a comment, and you see, when I started it, I had this whole of world, perspective, that a collective vision for the future. And when I look at these initiatives, I think these are great. These are wonderful. I just have one thing in mind. Please keep that in mind. The way the world is now structured, especially capitalism, the way it's structured, what we're seeing is that one country's very good idea ends up as a waste somewhere else. So for example, right now, Pakistan is the dumping ground of all solar panels and these electronic devices. It's become the dumping ground. Many other countries are becoming that. So what I would say is, these are great ideas, wonderful. But let's have a joint vision of the world. I mean, to make one part of the world heaven, let's not turn another part into hell. I don't know, there's no easy way to say this, and I'm not a diplomat, so I don't know how to say this diplomatically. But let's have a bigger vision of the world as well. And that's why we played that game in the beginning. And sorry about the audio issues in the beginning. I just figured it out. I just turned it on my phone. I wish I had done that earlier. Anyway, that's my 2 pence, but thank you very much.
Thank you, both of you. And actually what you said, Umar, is the reason we're doing this speaker series. And it's the reason World Usability Day exists and World Usability Initiative exists. Because, I mean, sitting here in Boston, I know I'm privileged and I complain that I had bad air for one day. I'll be honest, I understand that that's not everyone else's experience, and that's why I want to do this, because I agree with you. We can't have a planet where some people are doing great at the expense of others, or even that others are suffering. To me is a huge issue, and that if we can't all come together to solve these, I don't think we will. But that visioning that you did at the beginning really did make me feel like, we want humanity to keep going. I don't really think the planet's going to go anywhere. I think it's us on it. That's the issue. And, right? Like, because think about the dinosaurs. The planet's still here. That's just the dinosaurs aren't here. So it's the same thing. But if we don't all work together, it's just not going to happen. And sort of that's why I keep pushing for the United Nations and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, because, you know, while yes, the United Nations is not a perfect institution. There is not a perfect institution. It's what we have to work with. So we got to work with it. And I'm just so happy that we both, that I could get Umar and Suzanne to do this together from different sides of the planet and thinking about the same problem on different sides. And you both, I consider you both, you know, long UX people, have thought about this a lot. So anyway, I appreciate your coming. I appreciate everyone else's coming. We have 2 minutes if anyone. Go ahead, Dan. Great. I was going to ask for comments or questions. Off to you.
Yeah, I want to kind of draw attention to Umar's comment because I think so. It's important for us to recognize that traditional Western approaches to design tend to focus on the individual and on solving local problems, optimizing experiences in specific places, and that has externalities built into it. And the way most of us are trained to practice design is to do it in a way that produces externalities. So I think it's really important for us to become more aware of that and look for alternative philosophies of design that are more holistic and do start from at the system level and at community level without, alongside thinking about things at an individual level, but without privileging, design for individuals.
And I think that's a great point, and it's exactly connecting. What is that? How does that individual action connect to the global impact that you're looking for as a designer? To get people to take that action, you bring it back to the individual, but it is that thread that you're not asking your individuals to make that connection. You're making the connection for them. So if Pakistan is a dumping ground for solar panels, we need to change how people regard those solar panels and make use of them. There's a technological issue, but there's also a consumption issue.
That's a great point which you make, Dan, because a few days ago I was looking at an article. It was looking at, and it was telling how that narrative, let's say human-centered design, that was the mantra for a long time. Now there's also talk about, there are other species on this planet as well. This just thought process of, human-centered. I'm Homo sapien. I am the, alpha on this planet. That because of this thought process, that narrative, we are losing so much biodiversity, so much species biodiversity, both in terms of plants as well as because you're making those choices, and because in animals and plants, which is really sad. It all contributes to this thing about sustainability and climate change. So it's a big mix. I mean, we can spend the next 2 days on this, but thank you very much for bringing this to the fore. That these narratives, we need to reconsider them, rechange them. Otherwise, my only issue is, this is Climate Change Week in Pakistan as well. I'm seeing a lot of people say let's plant more trees, let's do this. This is great. But if 8 billion people in the world, they stop using plastic, they start planting trees, it might cause a difference, but we need to do bigger things than that. That mindset also needs to change. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. I think we're out of time, but if anyone has anything else, seems like we got a few hangers. No? All right. Well, once again, I really appreciate everyone coming. Thank you to Suzanne and to Umar and to everyone else who participated. And we'll be posting the video probably by tomorrow. Feel free to reach out. We're going to be doing more of these. And yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody. All right. Have a good rest of your day or night, depending on where you're calling from.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.